If you've been building your app on Bubble, here are 5 signs that you're ready to start scaling your application for long-term success. The first sign is that your application is reaching its limit in terms of monthly workload consumption. This is something you can review within the metrics tab of your app editor. And this can mean a couple things. Either you're experiencing now heavier usage of your application, maybe your user base is growing very quickly, and or your application's logic isn't as optimized as it possibly could be. So take a moment to review the logic that you have in your app, review those metrics, see if there are any opportunities to make things more efficient. Or if you have built things as efficiently as possible, this may be a sign that you need to upgrade your plan to the next tier and or add on a workload tier so that you can give yourself the workload units you need to support your application's activity. The last thing you want is for your app to be taken offline if it experiences a surge in activity. If you want to enable overages to protect yourself from being taken offline, that's another option that you can take as well. Another sign your app is ready to scale is that your manual processes that you're going through to support your application is now taking too much time. For example, let's say that you're building a marketplace and you have been personally verifying every single seller that is signing up before they can list their products and services on that marketplace. Well, if you're at a point where you now have so many reviews to do that you don't have time to do anything else, this is a good sign that you need to automate that system. You can consider integrating with a background check service through an API to get that time back so you can focus on other areas of the application. Creating an automation like this can also help the users. They'll be able to get onto the marketplace a lot faster. The whole process is more streamlined. It's going to be more consistent, right? Less errors. So overall, all of these steps that you can take in terms of automating previously manual processes that made sense for early versions of the application are going to help your application scale long term. The next sign you may be ready to scale is that your pages are now starting to slow down, where previously they may have been working just fine. Usually this means you have more data in your database, and now it's just taking a little bit more work in order to search through more records or filter through more records and then display it back to the user. This also usually means that your search logic might be a bit inefficient. So take a moment to review the logic and how you've approached querying data, filtering data. There's usually more than one way to approach that kind of thing. So if previously your pages were working just fine with less data, and now things are starting to slow down with more data, the source of data management is typically going to be the thing you want to address for long-term scale. Real quick, if you're finding this helpful, our Fast Track course goes vastly more in depth about how to take your app from idea to launch. Founders looking for a structured and complete start-to-finish blueprint find it most helpful. Take a look at coachingnocodeapps.com/fast-track to see if it's a fit for you too. The next sign your app may be ready to scale is going to come from your user feedback. If your current users' feedback is much more focused on improvements or new features that they're eager to see get added to the app than it is on errors or issues and bugs, then this is a good sign that you're in a position to start iterating your application. Of course, the first priority should be having a functioning, working application. But if you're past that validation stage where things are working properly as they should for the version that you're in now, and you have users telling you that they're excited for the next generation of the app, this is a great time to start iterating and making improvements so that your users will stick around for the long term. Another sign you may be ready to start scaling your application is if you're starting to hit limits with your API integrations. Many APIs will have different tiers of access where you can only get so much data from the API, or you can only call the API so frequently. So if you're starting to hit errors where you're hitting these limits consistently, that likely means that your app is experiencing heavier usage than normal, right? More frequent usage than normal. So make sure that you check on any API integrations that may be enforcing these limits so that you can go in and make any necessary account changes, upgrading to the next tier, opening up those limits so that you can support the heavier usage long term. At the end of the day, these are great signs to start seeing in your application because it means that you're now far past the validation stage and you're ready to start focusing on making your app as reliable as possible at scale.